All right, let's move on to 4A Sectional 19. We've got Plymouth at Northwood. That's 6-3 versus 9-0. Right below that, East Noble versus DeKalb. Then Northridge versus Wawasee, and Angola versus Culver Academy. I want to talk about an East Noble DeKalb game because this is a game they played back on September 7th. It was East Noble 35-7. DeKalb seemed to figure some things out since then.
Yeah.
I feel like they're going to be a tougher out than they would have been 2 months ago. How do you see this one playing out, knowing that East Noble in the head-to-head has had a lot of success against DeKalb, obviously?
I feel like we haven't given East Noble enough credit, or at least I haven't this year, because we talked about just how competitive the NE8 is this year, and East Noble swept through it and went undefeated to win the conference. So we talk so much about the floor has been raised in the NE8, yet me personally don't feel like I've given enough credit to the Knights. But DeKalb was playing exceptionally well. You know, they were competitive last week in the rain, wasn't able to get on the scoreboard. What was it, 7-0 final?
7-zip against Leo.
Yeah, so I think this is kind of a sneaky game for East Noble. I think you're looking ahead if you're East Noble going, man, this sectional is so brutal, and you don't factor DeKalb into being one of those brutal teams. But if you're not ready to play, and you know, Coach Amstutz has to guard against complacency, because you mentioned that first matchup. It was a lopsided matchup. DeKalb's better since then. You have to make sure your team is up for a sectional game if you're East Noble. You feel like you are, but they're teenagers, and you never know. Well, we took care of business by 28 the first time around.
Whoa. You're saying teenagers are unpredictable?
To say the least. We got other more adjectives we can use for teenagers, at least when I was a teenager.
Well played.
Several my parents could use for sure. So yeah, I think it's a
that's a whole other show, but I would like to get into it at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe the uncut, Inside the Zone uncut.
That's the director's edition that's coming out on DVD after the season ends. Angola versus Culver Academy. This is a game that was played last year in the sectional championship game. It came down to overtime. It came down to a Cockcroft kick. It goes in. Angola wins their first sectional in 25 years. Obviously, neither team needs to be motivated. A, your season ends if you lose, and B, they know what last season was like.
This is a tough draw for Angola, going on the road, taking on a Culver team, and the bar has to be raised for Angola, because I'm not saying that they've been sleepwalking through the season, but the latter half of the year, they show up, they're going to win, basically. And they haven't had to be at their best week in and week out, winning the NECC. Now, all of a sudden, you better be ready to play Culver Academy. It helps playing them last year, like you mentioned, that sectional championship game. But it really has to be a next step up for Angola. I think they're ready for it. It's not a gimme. They have to go right on the road, play a quality opponent to open the postseason.